Nintendo is smashing all kinds of sales records. Cats and dogs are living together and the streams are crossed in the video game industry. And it looks like one of our favorite 2D heroes is going to be making the jump to 3D. All that and the latest at Everything Cool today in the Rundown. Welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a bunch of fun stuff to get into, but first, we've got a special shout-out to the Rundown's new sponsor, the Gaming Stadium, which is Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments every weekend, so you don't want to miss the action. Check them out at tgs.gg, and make sure you tell them that the Rundown sent you. All right, this episode is dedicated to Luis Arias, who said, "Purple Batman is best Batman" on my latest side-scrolling superheroes vid, which is all about the classic Batman Nintendo game. And speaking of Nintendo, all of your friendly furry critters on your islands have been helping the gaming giant kick some serious butt. Nintendo's quarterly sales figures have hit, and no surprise, the company has been just crushing it. Nintendo sold just under 12 million Switch consoles over the holiday quarter, bringing total Switch hardware sold to almost 80 million since the console debuted in 2017. The Switch has now sold more than the lifetime sales of the 3DS and is gunning for the over 100 million club, where you'll find members like the Wii, the Game Boy, and the DS. Helping to propel those hardware stats is the massive amount of interest in Nintendo's games, especially the endlessly enjoyable Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and more recently, Animal Crossing New Horizons. The new Animal Crossing has sold more than 31 million units, and it's right behind Mario Kart 8 Deluxe after less than 1 year on the market. Now, the pandemic has definitely helped people discover the Switch, but there's no question that it is really making a dent in people's lives. Nintendo is starting to qualify it as a lifestyle product. It's not just a video game device. People are just incorporating it into their daily entertainment stream. It is really crossing over. It's still secret. It's a phenomenal machine. But, of course, questions are everywhere. Are we going to be getting a new Switch console soon? And Bloomberg's Takashi Mochizuki actually reported that Nintendo has been asked about that in its most recent earnings call. And unlike the definitive reply that they gave last year that there was not going to be a new Switch in 2020, this time they said not anytime soon, which means that the door is open a little bit more than it was last year. The only two big Nintendo Switch games that we know are coming soon are Monster Hunter Rise from Capcom and Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury from Nintendo. That leaves a lot of question marks about what's on deck here for 2021. But seriously, Nintendo doesn't have to shake anything up. They're clearly killing it out there. But I think a lot of us Switch fanatics, a lot of us gaming fanatics are ready for some new hardware news from Nintendo. What do you think? Are we going to get that this year? Let me know in the comments. All right, well, while Nintendo has been killing it, the other guys are starting to play nice and play together. We finally gotten a peek at what a PlayStation game is going to look like on the Xbox. Here's a look at the box art for MLB The Show 21 for the Xbox One and the Series S and X, which has been developed by Sony's San Diego studios. This olive branch development is due to the conclusion of Sony's exclusivity arrangement with Major League Baseball. This will also represent Sony's first PlayStation Studios title developed for an Xbox platform. And with regards to those previous gen versions, if you buy it for PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, you have to also buy it again if you want the current gen console versions of the game, which is kind of a drag. There's no free upgrade path. So if you don't have a PS5 or an Xbox Series S or X because you can't find them anywhere, but you want this game in next gen, I think the right solution is just to wait. But I can't wait to see more of the game. All the footage of baseball that we're showing right now is from last year's game. But as you can tell, PlayStation and its Sony San Diego studios have always done a killer job with this title. It's always been one of the most beautiful sports games of the year. They never slouch. And now what's wonderful is that other platform holders are going to be able to play this exquisite game. I cannot wait to see what MLB The Show 21 is like. Now, we don't know if there's going to be a Nintendo Switch version of the game, but what was interesting is that back in December of 2019, both Xbox and Nintendo tweeted that they were all on board for the fact that Sony was going to have to go multi-platform. So there was this kind of hint that a Nintendo announcement was going to come, and maybe it will. Maybe they'll have a separate Nintendo Direct for that. That would be very interesting. But what's also interesting about this whole discussion is how much the console wars, quote unquote, are really starting to shift. We've already seen PlayStation publish titles on the PC. We've seen Microsoft, through their Xbox Game Studios, publish stuff on PlayStation and Nintendo platforms. You can play a lot of stuff in the cloud on a variety of different platforms. How long is it going to take before we see something like Halo from Microsoft published on PlayStation, or we see Nathan Drake show up in a future edition of Smash? It's getting very strange and weird, but frankly, I like it. I like the fact that it's inclusionary, not so much exclusionary, but I want to hear from you guys. Do you dig the fact that now people are going to be able to play Sony's awesome baseball game on their Xboxes if they so choose? And do you want to see this kind of continue? Do you want to see a little bit more of this sharing and this partnership and these cats and dogs living together? Let me know in the comments below. And speaking of video games making some pretty epic transitions, we might be playing a 3D Shovel Knight game very soon. In my recent Vic's Basement interview with Yacht Club Games' Sean Velasco and Celia Schilling, we got into a whole bunch of very fun stuff, including the fact that Shovel Knight, their creation, keeps appearing in cameos across a whole bunch of cool games out there. But one little bit of information was very interesting, and that was the fact that Sean Velasco, who's the designer over at Yacht Club Games and one of the co-founders, said that he is a massive fan of Super Mario 64.
My favorite game probably is Super Mario 64. Sure would be fun to make a 3D Shovel Knight game someday that had really cool Shovel Knight mobility in a 3D platformer.
And as far back as a year ago, it looked like Yacht Club Games might be ramping up and hiring up to create a 3D version of Shovel Knight. Now, we've gotten little tastes of Shovel Knight in 3D, including the sort of, quasi 3D of his appearance in Smash, but he was also a character in Yooka-Laylee, which is very much from the Super Mario 64 kind of vibe, right? It's like a classic Rare experience. But Shovel Knight is a phenomenal character that obviously many, many people across the video game industry love. Lots of indie developers out there. There's lots of incredible partnerships. What's interesting is that this studio that has really, been focused on 2D experiences, including Cyber Shadow, which they just launched last week. They're the publisher of that game. That's why they were on Vic's Basement. They've all been kind of retro and 8-bit, maybe scaling up a little bit to 16-bit. So this idea that Yacht Club is now going to enter into 3D space and start designing something that's tuned and polished in that direction, with a lot of mobility, across the Z-plane and letting us bounce onto platforms that we kind of have to shift the camera around for. I'm all for it. This company hasn't taken any big missteps. They, as Sean explained in the interview, which you should watch the whole thing, by the way, but it was a fantastic conversation about the history of their company. And as he explained, they learned a ton when they used to work at Way Forward Games. There's a lot of ex-Way Forward folks at Yacht Club. And so there's some really incredible lessons, but so much of the focus has been 2D. And as we know, when you sort of dive into the history of the video game industry, not everybody can make that transition successfully from 2D games to 3D games. But something tells me that a 3D Shovel Knight is definitely going to kick some serious butt, or shovel some serious butt. All right, I've got a couple of other quick things to talk about. First up, there's a YouTuber out there that has streamed the entirety of a Goldeneye 007 remaster that was supposed to come out in 2007 on Xbox Live Arcade. His name is Grassloo00, and he knows a lot about how this thing came together, so I don't know if he's got some insider info or what. This was a game that was ultimately not published. We didn't get to play this thing on Xbox Live Arcade, although there was that very cool Eurocom-developed Goldeneye 007, which came out, I think, around 2010, and it was one of the best Wii shooters that came out. It was actually really, really fun. It was a total commendable experience. Daniel Craig was in the Pierce Brosnan Bond role, but they did a great job with that title. So it's not like we've been completely bereft and completely abandoned by the idea of Goldeneye. And clearly 007 is in the video game news right now because IO Interactive is working with Eon Productions on a James Bond game, and that's exciting. But I think it would be pretty damn cool to be able to play the original N64 007 rezzed up. But if you haven't ever played, especially the Wii version of GoldenEye 007, do yourself a favor and track that one down. It's terrific. And speaking of taking a look back at the classics, there's a new Game Boy game. Yes, you heard that right. It's actually a few months old. It came out on Game Boy in 2020. It's called Dragonborn, and it is a homage to Zelda and Pokemon and Dragon Warrior. It incorporates a lot of kind of game philosophies and design from all of those titles. It's quite ambitious. It's like a turn-based role-playing experience, lots of little characters to interact with and side missions to go on. The news is that it's coming to Steam. Right now you can buy the ROM and port it to a Game Boy somehow, or you can buy a physical edition, which is pretty cool. If you've got the money to spend and you want to collect a new Game Boy cart, you can do that, but pretty soon you'll be able to play this game on Steam. I haven't played it. I just thought that this was cute. I love the ingenuity, and it does look like it could be a lot of fun. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for our rundown today. Thank you so much to the Gaming Stadium for coming on board and becoming our sponsor. Really appreciate your support. If all of you could do me a favor and follow them on Twitter at Gaming Stadium CS and say thank you for supporting the rundown, that would rock. Thank you for supporting the rundown. We will see you tomorrow with a brand new episode, and until then, play forever.